am ready to start working on this apple painting now because I have made the drawing, which is step one. We are going to work with the apple the same way we've worked with the other shapes. And then I'm going to work to paint the values or the shadows first. So you'll notice that I have my apple image up on the screen so that I can look at it while I'm painting. This is an important step. And I can decide if I'm going to paint with a complementary color. Like if I know that I want to paint a red apple, I could go ahead and paint the shadows using green. Maybe I want to make a yellow apple. I could paint the shadows using purple. Maybe I'm not sure what color I want to make my apple, and so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to paint my apple shadows using gray. Or a lot of times blue works fairly well as a shadow color. I am going to, rather than use the black, which you certainly can do, I'm going to go ahead and mix up a gray by mixing the warm blue and the warm orange. So this gives me kind of a nice blue gray, and you see I mixed up quite a bit of it because I want to have extra. And what I'm going to do, I'm looking at my apple in black and white, and I am looking for where the shadows are darkest. It can help too to kind of squint at the apple a little bit. Apples are sort of shiny and they're reflective. And so we have kind of this darker patch here that I had outlined when I first drew the apple. There's also a little bit of a darker patch back here behind the stem, and there's definitely some dark down here under the apple from the cast shadow. Remember, this process is such that I'm painting what looks like awkward dark patches, then I'm cleaning my paintbrush out and I'm squeezing it dry, and I get to move this paint around to make my painting happen. So unlike working in landscapes where we kind of just let things, we worked with what we could make, I am now working with trying to make my painting match a little bit more carefully. And so you can see I'm just kind of trying to move some of that value around. I don't have to worry necessarily about like all those little freckles on the apple, but I am kind of squinting my eye and I'm thinking about the shadows and where those shadows become lighter and darker. So again, I cleaned my paintbrush, squeezed it mostly off, and I'm going to move this paint so that that patch on the apple isn't so dark. It helps if you squint a little so you can kind of see some of where the shadows are a little darker. Just a little darker down here at the bottom of the apple. And when I'm moving too much paint, then I just go back and I clean off my paintbrush. I'm trying to be careful to preserve this kind of highlight space up here at the top of the apple. And I can see that this got kind of dark, so I'm just gonna blend this together. And I think I'm probably just needing to take some of this paint off. It feels a little too dark up here for me. And so I just gave it a little bit of a scrub and I can just lift some of that paint right off of there. And And let's see, it's a little darker on this side of the stem. You'll notice that I'm not really painting the stem right now. I'm kind of leaving that as a finishing detail. I could go ahead and put some shadow on it if I want to right now, being it is kind of a darker element, but I also don't want to drag a bunch of that out and into the color of my apple when I paint my apple in whatever color I'm going to paint it. So I'm being cautious about adding too much detail to the stem before I'm ready. And at that point, once you feel like your apple is a reasonable representation of the shadows that are on the image, you are finished. And the painting just needs to sit until it's dry before we add the color.